Welcome, welcome. I have Dave Albin with us today. I'm so excited to have you on. Dave, thank you for attending the Pipe Podcast. I'm your host, Cruz, and we're going to have people listening and watching today, Dave, wanting to know all about you, about Firewalk Adventures, about how does this have to do with sales? I'm just so excited to have you on today, and thank you for joining us. Means the world to me. So listen, Pipe Podcast, what's that all about? We talk about sales process, sales initiatives, sales prospecting, and sales experiences. And so, we're going to draw some connections between sales and your organization. We're going to talk about experiences and professional growth and how to break through individual barriers. And we're going to have some fun today, Dave, over the next, 40 minutes or so. So thanks again for being on, and let's jump right into it. Why don't you give the listeners and viewers just a little background on yourself and your organization and a little bit about what you do and what part of the world you run?
Gotcha. Well, thanks, Crispin. I appreciate you having me on the show. It's an honor to be here, man, for sure. So I just, I came from a background where I was born to a single mom, and she did a really good job with what she had to work with. My mom, my generation, my parents' generation were the ones that saved the world, right? My dad was my father that raised me, was, fighting the Germans in World War II and in Europe. And then my best friend's dad was in Pearl Harbor fighting the Japanese. And so, our parents were a very, very unique, elite group of individuals. My mother, my biological mother, was known as Rosie the Riveter. So when all the men were out fighting the war back in the day, the women were home taking care of everything, right? They were building ships and they were building planes. And that's why they called my mom Rosie the Riveter, because she worked for McDonnell Douglas. Well, what happened though, Crispin, is that 2 months before I was born, my biological father, he had hurt himself somehow in Korea in the war. He's a pilot. And to save his life, they put a plate in his head. Well, it also took his life, because he was in a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. And so one day he turned to my mom 2 months before I was born and said, "Hey, I'm going to the grocery store," and we never heard from him again. So, when I was born, my mother that was raising me, my biological mother, she had 2 other boys from another man. She was living in a 1-bedroom apartment with my grandmother, with another cousin. So there were 6 of us living in this tiny 1-bedroom apartment. And it was in Hollywood, California. We literally lived right across the street from Hollywood High School. And mom was working right up the street at the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood, very famous hotel. And she was working her butt off. Yeah. She took a shift she could get. She was trying to make ends meet with us. And one day when I was 5 years old, she just realized she couldn't do it anymore. She just could not do it. So she did a very loving thing, and she put me up for adoption. Well, her sister, right, my aunt and uncle literally adopted me, and they took me to Long Beach. And so that's really kind of when my life changed from that perspective, right?
Yeah.
When they adopted me at 5, they stopped drinking, both of them. Well, 6 years later, when I was 11 years old, they both started drinking again. And on the first day of summer, 1964, this is right after Kennedy had been assassinated in November of 63, right? Mm-hmm. They set me down on the first day of summer and said, "David, we need to tell you something." And they put my mom, I'll never forget, she put her hand on my hand and she looked at me with tears in her eyes and she said, "David, what we need to tell you is we're not your parents." Well, what? What do you mean? What do you mean you're not my parents? And so that was a very, very definitive day in my life. And Crispin, that's when my life took a hard right turn. Well, shortly after they told me this, they both started drinking again. And everything, this perfect family environment just went to hell in a handbasket fast. Yeah. Everything changed in my life. Right. In fact, they were gone one day and I knew where the booze was. They were hiding it in plain sight. And I went and grabbed it. It was brandy. I poured it about half full in a cup and I drank it. And that was it. I never had a chance. I literally, truly believe that I was an alcoholic right on the spot because I started acting, as I look back, like an alcoholic.
Wow.
And that escalated. It got worse and worse and worse and worse. I got into my school years, junior high school, high school. By the time I was a junior in high school, they kicked me out of school. And again, it just got, once the hard drugs showed up and I started hanging around the wrong people, the wrong peer groups, things escalated there as well. And then on June 8th, 1988, man, I woke up that morning and I said, "That's it. I'm done. We're not doing this anymore." And I was married to a woman. She had 3 kids. She was a wonderful woman. I loved those 3 kids, but I couldn't see the excruciating pain anymore.
Right.
I mean, it stops today. I'm done. I'm out.
Right.
And so I thought, well, the thing to do is just put a bullet in your head, man. That's the easiest way out,
Right.
and of course we know that's not the thing to do, right? When you
Right.
kill yourself, you kill everybody around you. And, the 3 kids, I knew they'd suffer, and I knew that, everybody in school and the media and the cops and the morgue. I'm like, you know what, dude, you got to find another way.
Wow.
You can't do that. And so I had a moment of clarity there, of compassion for some people around me. And so I ended up making a phone call. Next thing I know, that I've got this thought in my head, well, call Alcoholics Anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny about that, Crispin? I didn't even know who AA was. I had no idea.
Right. Right.
I've been to a meeting. I didn't know anybody in AA. And yet there's the thought. Where did it come from?
Yeah.
So I did. I called them. And they picked me up. That was on June 8th of 1988. And it stuck. I went to my first meeting and I never looked back. I never used again. In fact, they gave you one of these little chips, right? When you get there, and they give you one for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, 9 months, and a year. And then this last June here, June 8th, a couple of weeks ago, I picked up a chip for 35 years.
Oh, my
so that's
goodness.
when the change happened. Right? That's when things really, really took a nice turn in my direction. That was a little bit more, in my favor. And then that's also when I got into the personal development industry.
Right.
Because I had insomnia, right? I'm up late all the time. I mean, I can't sleep. My sleep patterns are all over the place.
Right.
And there I am, man. Right? 1980. I'm up at 3:00 in the morning watching an infomercial by Gunthy Ranker. You can guess who was on the screen. There he was, Mr. Enthusiasm himself.
That's right.
Tony Robbins, young Tony, man, selling his program. And, I couldn't stand the guy originally. I thought, what a pompous jerk this guy is, right?
Right.
But he got me, and he got me. There's 2 things he said. One, he said, we'll do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. Thought about that for a minute. And I went, okay, I'm in a lot of pain. Maybe I should pay more attention to what he's saying here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what got me. He said, the driving force in our life is that we're motivated, inspired one of 2 ways, right? Either by inspiration or desperation.
That's right.
And I went, I'm pretty desperate. And so I bought his program, man. And he sent it to me, and it was a 30-day program, and it came on these little white things called cassette tapes.
I remember. I own these gray
right?
hairs. I remember.
Some of your viewers are probably going, what are those? Yeah, well, go to the Smithsonian. You'll see them there. So I did it, man. I plugged them in. I did what the man taught me to do. It worked.
Great.
And I started making changes. I started losing weight. I started my own business. And so one of my buddies in AA is watching this, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, dude, what's going on with you? Why are you so motivated? And I go, well, I'm listening to this guy, Tony Robbins. He goes, I know who Tony Robbins is. I got his book. And I said, well, I've got his program, man, if you want to borrow it. And he had, I'd love to do that. So I gave it to him. And he went through it. 7 years later, right? 7 years later, in 1995, he calls me on the phone. He goes, hey, man, Tony's coming to town. You got to go with me. You got me into this. I was like, okay, let's go. So he goes, I'll take care of everything. I'll call you back. He calls me back an hour later. And he goes, all right, here's what they told us to do. Done. We pick up the tickets at will call. Mm-hmm. Number 1, they said, bring a lot of snacks. We're going to spend a lot of time in the room. What an understatement that was.
Right.
He said, drink a lot of water. You need to hydrate. Bring a good attitude. Be ready to play full out. I said, how much was the ticket? He said it was $695. And I went, $700? This isn't in 95. So what's that equate to today? 7 million? I don't know.
Right?
I know it's a lot.
What's the equal amount in Bitcoin is the question.
Did you get in early?
Right.
Yeah, man. And then I said, well, listen, he said, play full out and bring a good attitude. I said, I just spent $700. I'll play full out. Don't worry. And just as he got ready to get off the phone, he goes, oh, wait, by the way, hold on a second. I forgot to mention, we're going to be doing a firewalk. And I went, I'm thinking in my head, I'm going, oh, hell no. No. I'm not doing any firewalk. I can tell you that right now. And you know what? It's funny about that, Crispin. I didn't know what a firewalk was.
Yeah.
I had absolutely no idea whatsoever, but I'm saying no to it.
Right.
Right. So fear is controlling me. It had been controlling me for my entire life.
Yep.
And though even I'm an AA, and AA says fear is false images appearing real. And I went, kind of like that. I like kind of take a turn here, because for me it was forget everything and run, except I used a different word.
Right.
So the acronym for that, well, the bottom line is that it comes today, man. Here we go. We get there at 2:00 in the afternoon and Tony takes the stage at 2:00. The next thing I know, it's after midnight. We've been in a room for 10 hours with Tony Robbins. Just incredible. And all of a sudden Tony goes, take your shoes off. And I'm like, oh no, I'm doing this, right? So I'm like, no, don't fall for it, right? And all of a sudden I look around and everybody's taking their shoes off. So now I've got a dilemma. If I don't take my shoes off and go out there, by the way, I'm in a room with 3,500 people.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm like, if I don't take my shoes off, all these people are going to know I'm a coward. So I'm like, well, just take your shoes off, go out there and fake it. I did. I took them off. Well, when you get out into the parking lot, oh, by the way, let me back up. It gets worse. When he gets everybody to go out there, he gets everybody chanting.
Right.
They're clapping. And they're like, yes, 3,500 people, right? Pretty intense.
Yeah.
But as you get out there and you get outside in this giant parking lot, right? He's got African drummers. So it's dun, 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 dun. And you're like, oh my God, what a dog and pony show this is, right?
It's amazing.
So I'm like, oh, well, I'm not having any of it. So I'm just going to go hide in the back. That's my plan. This is what I've decided to do. Well, I get out there. Well, Tony knows this is probably one of the most profound experiences any human can go through. He did his research. He's been using it for 3 decades now. And I agree with him. This is a very, very powerful experience. Well, he doesn't want you to miss out. So he knows there's guys like me that are going to hide in the back, right? So what's he do? He trains people to come find you.
That's right.
So there I am. And all of a sudden, here comes this guy out of nowhere and makes eye contact with me.
Uh-oh. Yep, I just heard. Yeah, so where we were in this story, Dave, is you're just about ready to go through that firewalk, and I'll fill a little of the space while we get your mic back. But I'll tell you, first of all, your whole story is absolutely incredible, and secondly, when we talk about getting through, that piece where you're going through a significant amount of change. That's amazing. I don't think we have you back yet, Dave, but I'll tell you, change is one of those things that as you're going through any experience like this, I am sure that as you're breaking through, or you're at least attempting to break through, initial mental and, potentially physical barriers as well. And so, that kind of, it's interesting as you're talking about this story. It's interesting that, what we do and what we talk about, like on the sales and business development side, is, breaking through those barriers is so important. And even with Sales Arbiter, as we're putting people through the outcome sales training program, which we manage, with most of the individual companies that we serve, they're going through, and the first half of that program, Dave, it's really working on the 6 inches between your ears. And that piece of it is really incredible. Because, we spend a whole day just working on that piece of it. Then the second, half of the training is then focused on, the sales process. But boy, if you don't get the first part right, and we can't straighten out, like I said earlier, the 6 inches between your ears, then, normally the second part doesn't matter. We still don't have your audio back though, Dave. You may need to log off and come back on. I'm not quite sure why. But that's okay. This is one of those live shows that unfortunately, or fortunately, you got to roll with the punches. One of the other things that you mentioned, Dave, which is really interesting, is the lessons that you learned, and how you got started, 3:00 in the morning, listening to, watching some of the infomercials, and then Tony Robbins comes on. And if we lose you, yeah, there we go. We got you back now. Perfect. That's perfect. And when, what's interesting, David, is when you talk about, Tony Robbins also, I mean, if you don't have someone, and especially when you're at those times in your life where you have to like find someone that's going to help pick you up, or some idea of, that's going to help pick you up, or something that you can hold on to as you're being pulled out of, the quicksand. Like that piece of it, that's a real experience that you're having at that time, of people that are, people that are there for a reason. And, I don't know if you believe in the guy upstairs. I don't know if you believe that he has a plan. I do believe that. And I'll tell you, you're in the quicksand and you're being thrown a rope, for a reason. And hopefully you have the strength to take it and pull yourself out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The whole premise of AA is built around that, right? Because one of the things I learned early on in there is that, is the preamble, right? It says, when anyone anywhere reaches out, I want the hand of AA to be there. And for that, I'm responsible. Mm-hmm. It was a huge distinction for me. I was like, I jumped in all in on that. And still to this day, I do that.
Yeah. So let's pick up where we left off. So you're hearing the drums, they're finding you, they're pulling you up to the front of the line. Then what happens next?
Yeah. So here comes this guy out of nowhere. And, again, he makes eye contact with me and he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Good. Move along. Nothing to see here. And he said, are you going to walk tonight? And I said, absolutely not. Like, what? Are you out of your mind? What's wrong with you? Right. And I said it with that kind of tonality. And he said, he goes, hey man, that's fine. No problem. We don't want you to do anything you don't want to do. I thought, well, okay, I love this guy. He's going to get me out of here. Well, here it comes, man. There's a stranger. I don't know who this guy is to this day. I owe him everything because I'm not on your podcast this morning, without him, right? Because the question he asked me was, wouldn't you at least like to watch? I thought, let's do that. Let's watch these people burn their feet off. That should be fun.
Right.
He goes, well, listen, man, you can't see anything from here. It's true. I got 3,500 people standing in front of me. The drums are going. Everybody's chanting. Yes. People are already starting the firewalk. They're screaming, they're yelling, they're celebrating. I mean, there's a giant fire over here. Logistically, how they set that up with 3,500 people, they started a fire at probably 2 when Tony took the stage. And it's probably 30 feet wide, 70 feet long. And they just keep adding hardwood to it all day long. 10 hours later, it renders, right? It's just a big, giant, beautiful pile of coals. Well, what they would do is they would load the coals in a wheelbarrow. And then they take a wheelbarrow and pull it in between 2 lanes of sod, of grass, what we call a fire lane, which is 3 feet long, about 18 feet wide. 3 feet wide, 18 feet long. And they just take a shovel and they sprinkle the coals on top of that. That's what you walked on, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I'm 100 yards from all that. I can't see any of that. I just saw these people. So he just says, well, why don't you just get in line? All right. And eventually you'll be able to get up there where you can see it. And so I did. I got in line. I'm just kind of walking along. And all of a sudden this guy comes up and he whispers in my ear. And he says, he knows when you're ready. When he says go, you go. And this guy just disappeared into the night. And I'm like, what was that? Who was that? What was that about? Right. So, I'm just kind of walking along and I'm walking along. And all of a sudden I can't see in front of me. Got hundreds of people. but I can see at an angle. And Crispin, they're doing it. Every race, every creed, every color, they're walking on fire. And my brain's going, why? What could possibly benefit from this, right? Because I have no references, nothing for this at all. And so now I'm mesmerized. I'm just staring into these people and they're just walking.
Right.
And I'm staring at them, and all of a sudden the next thing I know, boom, guess where I am? Like life, I'm at the front of the line. And so now I'm staring down into the coals, right? And they're glowing bright red. There's a wheelbarrow there. You can feel the heat coming off. And my heart is pounding out of my chest. I'm scared to death.
Oh my goodness.
Right. And all of a sudden there's the trainer standing there goes, eyes up. Like, you idiot. Right. I've been in a room with Tony for 10 hours. And guess what he teaches you to do? Keep your eyes up. And of course, my eyes are down, right? I'm a slow learner, apparently. So, he kind of goes, eyes up. And I drove my eyes up. And all of a sudden he said, squeeze your fist and say yes. I went, yes. He goes, stronger. And I went, yes. Well, he could tell. This trainer knew. He knew I was leaving a lot on the table. He knew I was not in peak state. I'm nowhere near it. Well, he screams at me. Threw my hands in the air and I screamed as loud as I could, yes. And he goes, go, go, go. Boom. I took off. Well, here's the beauty. Here's the first thing I learned about firewalking. When you take the first step, you'll take the second, third, fourth, and I guarantee you, right? That was it. Because this is two people, they lock arms, right? And they catch you and they're like, stop, wipe your feet and celebrate. No, I'm wiping my feet, I'm celebrating, and everybody in the whole celebration, and everybody's jumping up and down and high-fiving, and what an exhilarating feeling. You feel like you could do anything.
Unbelievable.
It is. It's just, and it's magical. It just happens. It's live. It's like you don't have to wait for the result. Yeah. It's there, right? In fact, there was a moment I go, oh my God, I burnt myself really bad. And I look at my foot and Crispin, it's dirty, but there's no burns.
Unbelievable.
Oh, it's my other foot. Yeah, it's dirty, but there's no burns.
Unbelievable. That's amazing.
Here's where it gets super, super interesting. The next day. So this is a 4-day event, right? This is day one, the night of day one. And so now the next morning it's day two, and we're all standing in the foyer, having all experienced that last night. I've never witnessed anything like it in my life, ever. To this day, I've never seen anything like it. People were getting along humanistically unlike anything I'd ever seen or experienced in my life. People were hugging and they were laughing and they were crying and they were talking. And our energy from last night, vibration, the self-worth, the self-confidence, the self-belief, just boom. And I'm hanging with a bunch of people and we're like, okay, look at this. Look what this did to us.
It's amazing.
It's magical, man. It is so beautiful. It's gorgeous.
That's really cool.
And that's how it started for me. That's where I fell in love with the firewalking experience. Because I saw it work right before my very eyes and thousands of people. Yep. So I got to know one of Tony's trainers, a guy by the name of Ted Macy. And I'm talking to Ted, super nice guy. And all of a sudden, I'm talking to Ted and I go, dude, this is amazing. This must be really awesome that you get to come into this environment, on a regular basis. And he said, oh, yeah, it's unbelievable. And he says, as a matter of fact, you said, see all those people over there wearing those black shirts with the pink writing? I'm like, he goes, those are all volunteers. So if you want to be part of this, man, when you go home, call Robbins Research. Tell them you want a volunteer crew application. They'll send it to you. And I did. I filled it out. I sent it back. And I think it was 7 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail that said, congratulations, Dave Albin. You've been selected to crew with the Tony Robbins Company. And there I was, man. I got my foot in the door. Well,
literally. You had your foot on the fire and then you got your foot in the door.
My foot in the door, right? So, yeah, it was like they read your application. And so they saw I lived on a farm, knew I knew how to use tools, log splitters. They go, he's going to be perfect for the fire team. Put him over there.
That's awesome.
And then I had a military and a security background. They said, well, let's use him on the security team too to help take care of Tony's celebrities. So I was on both teams. So there I am, 1995, dancing with the Tony Robbins Company.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it takes another turn. It takes a really interesting twist because in 2003, Tony offered me the captain's position. And for my family to travel. And we took off.
Wow.
my first event with my family traveling with me was in Sydney, Australia.
Mm-hmm.
That was in 03. 05, we go to London. We set a world record. We firewalked 12,300 people.
Wow.
So that, now I want to disclose something, Crispin. Guinness was not there. Guinness Book was not there. I say it's a world record. But to my knowledge, no one's ever facilitated a firewalk at that level.
Right.
Other than another Tony Robbins seminar, right? Where it was 10,000 people or 1,000 people, whatever.
Right.
And then to move it forward, man, in 2014, next thing I know, guess who's contacting? This company called Google.
Right.
And they're asking me, are you the Dave Albin that does the firewalks for Tony Robbins? And, yeah, why? What's up? Well, if you're not under any contractual obligation or non-compete, we'd like to talk to you about hiring you.
Wow.
And so they had 148 executives graduating in Mountain View, and they wanted to anchor this in with a powerful experience. Google knows, they get it. They understand what doesn't challenge you doesn't change you, right?
Right.
So they wanted to anchor it in. So we started talking about a firewalk. And when I found out they wanted to do it in the middle of the day, I'm like, no, can't do that because I need to see the color of the codes.
Right.
It's a safety issue. I said, but I tell you what we could do. We could do a glass walk. And that's where I teach people to walk on broken glass. They're like, well, tell us about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there I am in 2014. I'm at Mountain View and, we're putting on the glass walk experience. And by the way, we set a world record glass walk a couple years ago in 2019, we went to Paris and we glass walked over 1,500 people.
Wow.
So I've had the honor and privilege to set the biggest firewalk, that's ever been done. And then the largest glass walk that's ever been done as well.
That's amazing. So I got to ask you, because I want to draw this back to, some of what the audience is hearing. And, Dave, we've got entrepreneurs, we've got business owners,
right,
that listen to this podcast, and obviously those that are looking to pick up on, sales. And,
sure.
And I mentioned a little bit of it when we had the break in your audio, but tell me what you think about like how important it is to have the right mindset. And when you talk about, you had said you have to be in your peak state. And I want to unpack that a little bit because I think that brings a tremendous amount of value to those that are listening and watching today as well.
Yes, state management is everything. Consistency. We know it. As salespeople, I have to do sales within my company. I know, I get it. I understand it. It's proved itself to me. When I'm doing really well, what am I? I'm all in. I'm consistent. Right. I don't break patterns because patterns are everything. Whether we undereat or overeat or work out or don't work out or make our sales calls and do the prospecting and do the marketing, we know that consistency is everything. And we know that when we're in the zone, man, we're in the zone, but then we break pattern. So I think for me, it really is understanding those patterns. And so when you see them coming, it's like, okay, here it comes, step away from that pattern. Because, the bottom line is that get your name out there, and all the great sales trainers out there, they know they teach this.
Sure.
Tony spent a lot of time with Chet Holmes and, Chet teaches this, taught this. It's everything, right? Yeah. So mindset's everything. And so what are you doing every day? What's your rituals? What do you do when you get up? Are you nutritionally, are you taking care of yourself? Are you exercising and moving your body? Are you drinking? Are you hydrating? Are you reading 10 pages a day in a really good book to encourage yourself? These are all the things that, once you get into, you look at anybody that's succeeded at a high level, there's a balance between achievement and fulfillment. I call it an art and a science between those two, because, we achieve at a high level sometimes, but are we fulfilled? Because I did 5 events last year. I know who the EO organization is, the Entrepreneurs Organization, right? I did 5 gigs. I did 5 gigs for those guys last year. In fact, South Florida just booked with me this morning. They just sent me a deposit for a gig we're going to do late January 24. And one of the things I say to all the entrepreneurs is like, look, guys, get really clear about something. You are not going to get to the end of your career and look back and go, wow, you know what? I wish I'd have spent more time making money and less time with my family.
Yeah, right.
It's going to happen.
That's right.
Right. So get that organized. And of course, that's what they bring. That's what I bring to them. I bring the Firewalk experience to them. I do the board break with the Firewalk as well. And the reason I do that is to answer your question a little deeper is on the board break, what we basically do is I have them write something on front of the board they want to move toward. I have them write something on the back of the board they need to break pattern with, that they need to stop doing. Yeah. And I have them write anybody's name on that board that they're in conflict with. Right. So if forgiveness or reconciliation is part of that relationship, it stops tonight.
Wow.
And so I have them do that. And then to create the rite of passage around the board break and the Firewalk, I have them write anybody's name on the board that they've lost. So we go through the experience. They break the board. I take them outside. We do the Firewalk. We circle them back. And then they add the board to the fire.
Wow.
Right. So we get that all on video for them, and we get all the pictures so that they can look back and take that experience and combine both of them. So Tony only does the one, right? And I went, you know what? I want to combine the two because I want him to write something on that board to move towards, something on the back to move away from.
Right.
So now, right, then when they get into those patterns and a little Mr. or Mrs. Doubt jumps up on your shoulder, you're like, hold on a second. I made a creed here. I made a commitment. I firewalked. If I could walk on coals at 1,000 degrees and not hurt myself and burn myself, what else can I do?
That's right.
Right. So
that's right. I love it. I just love it. So let's talk a little bit about, how we move through change, because listen, David, your story is incredible. And, a lot of times we find ourselves, in a position, in a company, or just in our role, and we're not performing at our highest level because of some of the things that we just talked about, right? You're not performing, and you're not moving in the right direction for the right reasons. Right. And so, when you talk about like moving through change and some of the things that you had to do, to get through those really, really tough times. I mean, what was helping you to get through that time that really, that you look back and you say, this is something I should be sharing with others. So then they understand that, maybe 1, 2, 3 things that they should be doing just if they're having these kinds of challenges in their life, either personally or professionally.
Wow. Powerful question. Well done. When we do the things that are hard, life becomes easier. When we do the things that are easy, life becomes harder. Because again, we get back to, what doesn't challenge you doesn't change you. Because I believe there's the two most important times in someone's life is the moment you're born and the moment you figure out why. And then, they also, every human has 2 lives. And the second one starts when you realize you have only one. And so to me, it's all about stop negotiating with yourself. If you say you're going to get up out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning and start your day and do your workout and take care of yourself nutritionally, drink your water and take your cold shower and read your 10 pages in your book, damn it, do it. Just stop negotiating with yourself. Yeah, I'm just going to sit in bed another 15 seconds longer. That's a pattern. And you better recognize what that pattern's doing to you. And I'm all about interrupting at a really, really high rate. In other words, jump up, get out of bed and say, no. Look at Dawkins, man. Look at how that guy rolls. Jeez, look what he tells himself on a regular basis, right? He's kicking. Nobody pushes him harder than him.
Right.
And the thing is that if you really want these things in your life, right? If you've got your goals list and you've got your vision board and things like this that I believe are fundamentally extremely important for your life, because you get up every day and my board's right over there. I can see it. I look at it every single day. And again, it comes back to, Crispin, I don't negotiate with myself.
Yeah.
Do I want to take that cold? I live up here in the Appalachian Mountains. Mm-hmm. I have mountain water, spring water coming in my house. It's cold. It's not like tap water in Chicago. I can tell you that.
Right.
Cold. It's really cold. And when I take my shower, I turn that thing off and I go, all right. And I set a timer. Boom. I turn that on. Do I like it? No, right. I don't. But do I like it that it's helping remove the inflammation in my body? Do I like the fact that it's training my mind to step up and do the things that are uncomfortable?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And the other thing too, and I think it's really super important, is your peer group. Who are you spending time with? If you take your 5 closest friends and you average out how much they make per year, you're within 10%.
Wow.
So, and that's the beauty of AA, right? If you want to get sober, go to AA and hang around sober people. Right. You want to become a drug addict, go hang around a bunch of druggies. I mean, it's really, really critical, important. So my circle of influence, I've got some major players in my circle. These guys they're like you, Crispin. They're out doing it. They're not talking about it. Right. They're not, they're doing it. They're making it happen.
Right. That's right. That's great. That's great advice. Hey, what a wonderful and unbelievable and now believable story. But Dave, I'm just so happy to have you on. So this is typically when we pivot to the Sales Arbiter 7.
Sure.
I do this little thing that's just kind of a tribute to our friend James Lipton. You remember him.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
where we ask 7 questions at the end, and it gives our audience and our viewers, just a little insight to maybe a little bit more of who you are. Sure. And so if you're willing to participate in that, I'd like to toss these out and just
here comes the cold shower is what he's got.
There you go. Now you get it. So this first question, real simple, what's your favorite word, Dave?
Oh, it's easy. Gratitude. Yeah. Because, if you're not grateful today, what day you're waiting for, right? Because, when you're grateful, fear and gratitude cannot occupy the same space at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I've found over the years that gratitude is everything. And so, for me, it's, for me in my life and how messed up I was and all the stuff I did, I spent a great deal of my time, Crispin, trying to ruin my life and destroy my life. And so the fact that I am where I am today, boy, I better be grateful.
That's great. That's a great one. And let's pivot. What's your least favorite word?
Hate.
Hate.
Or I can't. It doesn't resonate with me at all anymore. Because I lived that life. I know what that's like. I was swimming in that. I can't. I won't. I'm afraid. And again, that Firewalk turned me. It took that acronym for forget everything and run to face everything and rise.
Yep.
How quickly can your life change? Boom, heartbeat.
There you go. I love it. What's something that could make your day?
Anytime I see my grandkids or being around the family, and I'm a big grandpa guy right now, and you know how the saying goes, right? All the grandpas and grandmas out there, we realize, what's that saying? It says that, if we'd have known how great grandkids. Oh, look at you! Pull that picture up. No, you can't. Yep. Oh, there she is. She was just born on Good Friday. That's Charlotte Ray. Yeah. So, if I'd have known how great grandkids were going to be, I'd have had them first.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
Oh, wow. Look at him go, man.
That's right.
That's cool. Thanks for showing that. I love that.
You got it. You got it.
My life, man. I seriously, I get to a point I'm so grateful to see and have that in my life. And it's very powerful too. I mean, it's, what I want to do and carry on for them and their legacy. And, one of the reasons I do all these podcasts is so that they'll be able to come back and play these and look at these. And
that's great.
What a powerful show this is going to be for them to be able to, in my family, to come back and see what you guys just did there and just rolled that off, man. Thank you so much. That was beautiful.
You got it. My pleasure. Yeah. What's something that could ruin your day?
That's a choice. It's a choice I'd have to make to ruin my day. I think Viktor Frankl left us a really, really important part about life. He wrote, Man's Search for Meaning, right? And he was in Auschwitz, and there was nothing worse. They assassinated his family. He was standing naked in a yard. It's cold. They took everything from him, everything, all his dignity. And, he's watching people go to the chambers. and dying every day with nothing but death. But you know, the one thing he found he couldn't take from him? His attitude. His attitude. And that's part of it. You know, for something to take and ruin my day is my attitude. So I would have to allow that to happen. And so, good luck with that.
That's great. That is great. So what's a sound or noise that you love?
I love music. You know, I love frequencies. I know I've got the 528.
Yeah, that's right.
The universal frequency. So I'm always phoning that. I listen to the Selvicchio frequencies of the universe and all that. So I love sound and music, and anything that has a tone like that to it, that, you know, your every cell in your body can hear and feel. Yeah, you betcha.
Right. I love it. That's great.
And for your listeners, by the way, that's called 528. The frequency on that is 528. So you can go get yourself one of these. And you want to change your attitude, you want to change kind of what's going on. I listen to this a lot of time before I go on stage.
That's
so
great.
Just, you know, and it just anchors me, man. I'm so tuned into that. What a great question, man. I've never been asked that question before. That's
I appreciate it. It. What's a sound or noise that you hate?
My dog throwing up in my room.
That's never fun.
Right. You want to get out of bed. We should have alarm clocks. Dog throwing up in your room. You know?
Right. Baby's crying. Yes. Right. That's what we should do. We could. That's $1 million idea right there.
Right. Dave. Somebody out. One of your listeners right now on it.
I know. They're like we could
trademark.
I love it. What's a profession other than your own that you would have loved to attempt?
Oh, wow. Probably one of my dear friends, buddy of mine, incredible entrepreneur, Ornze. He's got a second-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he does a lot of work with first responders, but he does a lot of work with kids. And so it's jiu-jitsu, and he puts them on the mat, and he teaches them discipline and self-worth and self-esteem and self-confidence. And I do that too. I just kind of do it in a different way. But I've been to his studio many times, and I watch him work, and I see how he works with kids, and I just watch them. And it's such a beautiful, gorgeous thing to watch. So I'd probably want to go down a road of something like that.
That's great. That's great. Dave, I can't thank you enough for being on today. The stories that you shared, your journey, everything that we talked about today and how that applies to all of the things that we talk about here on the Pipe. I'm sure that the listeners and the viewers got a lot out of it today. Let's talk about how they find you. How do they find you, Dave, if they're looking
for your show?
Yeah, okay, that too. Okay, but what's the best way for them to get in contact with you and find you?
Just go to the website that you're showing there. It's firewalkadventures.com. Some might take note. You can see in the top left hand. There you go. There's my LinkedIn and my Facebook page and all that. I'm there. I'm very accessible. My phone number's in there. My email's in there. People get a hold of me. They call me. The only thing coming up that some of your listeners might be interested in. Basically, I have two types of clients. One, somebody calls me and says, Dave, my company's in trouble. We got a lot of dissension. It's breaking down. I need you to come bring your team here. I'll write you a check. Come bring the firewalk. Come bring the board break. Come bring the glass walk. Come bring the arrow break, the rebar bend, whatever. Come inspire my people. They write me a check. Great. We'll do that. The other way that they can involved is that I have the Dave Albin Firewalk Academy. That's coming up in October. I bring in 9 people at a time, only 9. There's a reason for that. It's 3 sets of 3. So they come and they spend a week with me. And then I train them on all this stuff. I teach them how to firewalk. When this interview was going on, I have people here in my home. They just left. They walked out the back door. Like I told them I was on the podcast. So they came here and I did a private firewalk at my home. I do that all the time. I've got celebrities that call me that want to come, this kind of thing. Anyway, so the Dave Albin Academy, that's what I do, Kristen. I bring them in. They spend a week with me. I show them how to do big firewalks, medium firewalks, little firewalks, backyard firewalks, all the team building, all the storytelling, all of that. And when they graduate, then they can go back in their respective companies, or if they're a trainer, coach, whatever, and they can facilitate these life-changing paradigm shift experiences.
That's great. That is great.
It's awesome.
Well, listen, thank you again for being on today. I always close every show like this, Dave, but and I always say, keep selling and have fun doing it. Thank you, Dave Albin, for being on today, and we really appreciate you.
Thanks, you guys, and all the guys in the back of the house that took care of all the AV, man. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye now.